All right, everybody. We've got two very special guests for y'all this week. Everybody, please welcome to the show Michael Avon Oeming and Taki Soma. Welcome, guys.
Thanks for
Hey.
having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thanks for being here. Super excited to talk more Mad Cave books. I feel like the last, few weeks or so, Chris and I keep talking about Mad Cave and all the awesome projects they're doing. Now they've roped you two in somehow. It seems to be infectious with a lot of cool creators we're talking to. So glad to have you here. And I think that's a good segue into the first question is, how did that relationship come about with both of you being involved in this project with Mad Cave? I think it's one of Chris and I's favorite new publishers. And especially now, Galaxy of Madness was a wild ride for that first issue. So how did that come about?
Well, we can blame the pandemic for it.
Okay, perfect. Yep. That's a good start.
It was toward the beginning of the pandemic. We were all scrambling to just kind of find a new way to make comics. And Mike has had online relationship with Mags because they know each other from
Young Animal.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was doing Kate Carson, she's doing Shade.
Yeah. So they're just kind of talking back and forth for a while and kind of wanting to work with each other. And yeah, the pandemic hit, and I think just she just pitched the story, and we're like, yeah, let's just we should just do it. And we didn't have any publisher in mind or anything. We're just we just got to do this. We just have to do this.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how it started.
Yeah, and at the time too, the distributor stopped for a while.
Yeah,
right. So it was this three-legged table of comics was losing one of the legs, and so we literally weren't thinking of a publisher because it looked like everything was going to collapse. So we were like, well, let's go someplace we can control it, which is let's release it digitally. And so it just started out of that time period, and very organically. And a big part of it for me was Mags of Saggio's writing. So when we were talking about some different ideas and projects, at first this felt too big. Usually I like to play it safe, do 4 issues and get the hell out of there kind of thing.
Yep.
But I read the characters, and there was a lot of stuff that the character was going on with the characters that Taki and I talked a lot about in our storytelling that we wish we saw more of. So that's really what solidified and sold it on us of well, what are we going to spend the next half year or so, dedicating our lives to? So yeah, it started from there.
Yeah, and really, I think she had a very specific length for the story to support the character arc. So the length actually makes sense. It's actually part of the story is the length. So she was very, very adamant in the length, and I think that's a battle that was absolutely necessary.
Yeah, that's one of the things. I mean, we've noticed that we've started watching way more television series than films, because no matter how good a film is, you have a short, even in these long 3-hour films, right?
Yep.
It doesn't compare to 8 to 10 episodes of learning a character and watching them very, very slowly get to where they want to go. So it really serves
some
the purpose.
shows, they have multiple seasons too, right? So you get to live in that world and live with those characters, get to know them as if they're family or friends, and you understand all the choices they make and why, whether you agree with them or not. And I think that's the most fun part about telling a story is you get to know these fictional characters, but you kind of know them so well that you're oh yeah, I know why they made that choice, even though that would be bananas in different cases. But yeah, I don't know.
And I would say this story in particular, I don't like to push a lot of pop culture properties together, but I would say it's almost like a Star Trek. I hate when previews is this is Westworld it meets Godzilla or something, but to me it was a very Star Trek-esque setting, but a lot more there's a lot more going on that's like part of a bigger picture of the universe. So maybe like, 2001 Space Odyssey, that kind of thing. A lot more philosophical. Can you talk about that a little bit? Just the overall story?
Yeah, like, so the basic concept is our main character, Vigil Virgo. Her parents were space archaeologists, or just archaeologists, right? Who discover some deep secrets about the universe. And they go missing in exploring this, trying to find out like the truth behind the universe. They go missing and they leave behind their daughter, Vigil Virgo, with one of their co-workers, this guy named Odysseus Rex. He's a dude with the big mustache.
Yep.
And Odysseus kind of knows the secrets, like not everything, but he kind of knows what's going on. And he loves Vigil. She's like a daughter to him because he raised her, right? But he's also trying to stop her from actually finding her parents for various reasons, and that's where sort of the mystery comes in. That's where a lot of like the contrast and character clashing comes in. Is like he wants to help her, but he also only wants to help her so far. And then so the core of the story really is this father-daughter story that extends to her actual parents, right? Like it's not just the biological family, it's the found family within the ship as well. And then there's this larger question about the universe and our place in it. So Mags gets to like, we all get to play around with like our own sort of parental and identity issues, and then like the existential, what is the universe stuff,
Right. You can go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, I was gonna say I really enjoyed the book as a whole, and I liked how Magdalene also kind of pokes fun at herself in the book as well, because I thought that first issue at times, like, it's so much jumping around and kind of building on what this book is going to be, and then at the end she has that little line of like, I'm gonna forget the exact wording, but I remember come back next week for this and more convoluted and all that.
Right.
But I like you're throwing out so many different ideas for the first issue and trying to set up so many things. And I thought even at times when I felt lost in the story, it all comes together in the end with that big reveal, which I don't really know if we want to talk too much about that, but just the fact that it all comes together there. I thought was really impressive with her
I love that. I love when a writer is able to throw a billion ideas out and balance it, because it's a tightrope act. And like, if it doesn't work, you just lose everybody. And I've done both. I've had stories where I had a bunch of stuff going into it and it worked, and I had a bunch of stuff that didn't work. So to see Mags pull it off, it's always a fun magic trick to do, and then really leaning in on that Silver Age cliffhanger stuff. The Silver Age vibe is a big part of this.
I love that so much.
Yep.
Yeah, it comes off cheesy, but I think it's being handled like in a modern way, so it's not cheesy.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me a little bit of now that we're watching it, Fallout, right? And it's got that 80s,
I just finished that as well.
B-level film thing, but also it's treating it seriously at the same time. And I love that kind
but also having fun. In a modern way.
Yeah. I thought it's interesting in the solicitation notes, they even bring up they call it a 4-color fantasy. And one of the things about like a lot of classic comics I enjoy is the classic sci-fi comics. And it did really bring me back to some of those books that I've read over the years. but with, like you said, a modern lens to it. So
that was a big part of her pitch too. It was the Silver Age thing, which like at first I wasn't necessarily into. Like that was part of besides the size of it, I was like, oh, I like the Silver Age thing, but I don't know if I could pull it off. But like as I did the research, it started to come together. There's still some of my because I'm old, so there's a big 70s vibe in there as well, and I think that kind of helps give it a unique look. So it's got the retro vibe, but there's some of it's out of sync, but like I think in a way that balances it. And then of course Taki's colors brings it all together so that it has a unified look.
Let's talk about the art.
Actually,
go ahead.
Can I just jump in real quick on that?
Yeah.
Because Michael, I think another thing that brings the book together is really the art and what you two did together, and also just your style. Like I've said over the years on this show, because I've read a lot of your stuff and I've really enjoyed it, that you're a very unique artist, and the project really I like that you've picked projects that fit your unique style in different ways. Everything from Powers back in the day to this, like they're very different books, but at the same time, like the styles really bring the books together. And I think that's another thing about this book is like your art and then Taki's colors on top of that sell the image of the book or the idea of the book really well too.
Yeah. Thanks so much. Yeah, I mean, it definitely is the projects will speak to me on what the look is supposed to be. You know, like there's not a lot of rendering in this. There's a lot of solid shapes.
Yep.
There's just a little tiny bit of rendering, which is actually something I picked up from Taki and her inks. You know, so yeah, each end is a little more cartoony than some of the other stuff. At least to me. I mean, it's still in my style, but I have slight variations in that.
Yeah, it's undeniably your style, no matter what, you know, variations you use. But I mean, I think they're evident, like when people see it, like, yeah, this doesn't look quite like Powers art.
Right.
You know,
Exactly.
stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's a great relief to hear because just like most people have a certain amount of imposter syndrome, you know, that I get over. You know, I mean, I'm doing the work, right? But
Right.
I feel like anything that's like older than like 3 years old, I'll look at it and I'll go, why can't I draw like that anymore? So just hearing that it's all working for other people is thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and to talk more about the art and stuff, I think you said a little bit, Michael, that you talked about the design of the characters. I mean, how much of that was influenced by you? Was there a lot of direction there, or?
I mean, that's one of Mags is great to work with
Yeah.
because she is completely hands off. I've never given her a page where she asked, like, that's not quite what I was going for. Can you rework it? She'll rework dialogue afterwards or whatever. We had a little bit of feedback with the design work. It was a bunch of, I just sent her tons and tons of different sketches.
Yeah, so she kind of picked what she liked, but it wasn't like, we'll do this, but you know, change that or whatever.
Yeah,
like,
she's a good collaborator. She's never trying to be.
Even her scripts are like very like or artist friendly, meaning like artists like Michael himself, like he, you know, he doesn't really need a lot of directions to come up with like a good like visual storytelling because he's just a master at that, right? So yeah, she like left room for him to just figure that out on his own.
Yeah, she really knows how to talk to the artist. Like, she just gives me enough that I know this is a claustrophobic scene. This is a dark, scary thing. This is the engine room should be kind of big and open and stuff. And, but that's it, you know. And then we just had tons of fun with the designs, like getting into that 70s. I'm sorry, the 50s silver thing. Like, I wasn't sure what to do with the ship. There's this really cool ship in there called the Verisimilitude, which is a great name for a ship.
Which I can't say. So like, that's it's a tongue twister. I can't say it, and
it was hard for me to read.
I'm gonna sound stupid, so I'm just gonna stay silent.
And I was like, well, what does this ship look like? I just like, you know, because I'm not into the tech stuff as much as like sort of what people are wearing and things. And she was just think Silver Age rocket ship, like it's just a silver rocket ship thing. So I came up with something which I used Google SketchUp to help me keep it consistent. And I put this weird wing nut on the top of it. And then I had this idea that like when it's flying around, the wing nut eye is straightforward, but then it can kind of come down like the Eye of Sauron and look around when they're
that's cool.
landing and stuff. So it's just a lot of fun with that. One of the things that I love, like I, of course, being like a Star Wars kid, I always loved that sort of vaguely space piratey thing, you know, like the rebels, the individual groups or group of individuals with different backgrounds who are, you know, off in their adventure. And one of the things I love, the biggest nerd thing I'll ever say is just the not BBC, it's a British show called Blake 7, which was around the same time as Doctor Who. So I put a couple of homages into there as well, because that was kind of like the original space pirate thing. So it was just this whole setup of characters was something I was really excited to do. And tie in that sort of Saturday morning cartoon, you know, Space Ghost, you know, they're in the future, but they're also wearing spandex. But it's not really superhero spandex either. It's somewhere in between, which feeds into the 1950s thing and stuff. So
and just go into the sides of the colors from Taki. I don't know a way to express this because I'm not an artist, but I noticed that for some of the pages there, you use the or the inking or the contrast as the full color for some of those pages. That makes sense. Like there's a lot of blacks used for that would, you can show some of the pages there.
Oh, you mean like the color hold?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The color holder
Something like that, where it makes for like interesting scenes, but then like we arrive at a planet, and I don't know if we could really show that page because it's part of the full issue, but like one of the planets has a really bright, like vibrant red or like dark red in the back, and it like really pops off the page. I think that's just a really interesting. Yeah, see a lot of the use with the shadows and stuff there for the inking, I think is really cool. But yeah, just the color choice in general. Can you talk a little bit about that? Like, where did you come? Because like I see that page with the purples and the blues, those like cool colors, and I think space, right?
Mm-hmm.
So where did you come about with some of those choices for those pages?
Well, I thought to myself, like, when it comes to colors, like I'm not very technical about it.
Okay.
I just kind of go by my gut feeling.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe a lot of other artists, they have like a palette that they want to work off of, and they're they have a lot of like tools that they use to keep consistency and whatever. And I'm just like, yeah, this looks good, and this feels like the right kind of theme of colors that I want to use. But because it's like really Silver Age heavy style in storytelling and art and everything, and design especially, I wanted to add something that was very modern looking, and but still like paint a little bit of homage, like what like the Silver Age thought like the future would look like.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
Yep.
So yes, I kind of kept that in mind, and that's why like a lot of the panels have like colors in them instead of it just being like black, rectangular, and just because I think they pop in a way that brings just modern feel to it, so yeah,
I definitely get that from reading the book too. Like you said, like a classic story almost, but I think the colors aid in it being, oh, this is definitely like I could see that on a shelf and be like, yeah, this came out or 2024 or something like that. But I definitely feel that way looking at the book. And I guess since we have you both here, which is great, can we talk about a little bit of the relationship between art and colors and inks and things like that? Like, how does that work between you two developing a page?
Yeah, bloody and Bruce. I think,
It's a lot of fighting. You can tell
yeah.
No,
Michael's a taskmaster, I assume.
Yeah.
Like, fortunately, and it's really unfair that like we work so well together that it's just kind of seamless, and it just makes sense whenever like there is anything that like if I have the time and he has the time and like whatever, then might as well work together.
Yeah. We're always about like what's the best thing for the story, and whether that's the art or the actual story itself. So like, one thing's early on. Well, it's funny because Taki is self-taught in the colors. Like she jumped into the deep end when Brian Bendis and I were coming up with Murder Inc. United States of Murder Inc. I was going to color it. We were looking at old comics, like a lot of the Steranko stuff and Kirby, and I was like, these 4-color comics, they still look beautiful now. You don't need everything, doesn't and it's a style choice and stuff. So I was going to just do it like in that kind of really simple style, but it's still time consuming. And then like Taki's like, I'll do it.
I'm not doing anything.
Yeah. So if you look at that book, there is a very completely unique color style and choices that are all has to do with like sort of an abstract expression of the story and what the characters are feeling and doing, rather than what's literally happening on the page. And then when she switched gears, when we did Dick Tracy together, which was also at Man Cave now, and she decided to go, I kind of expected to still be like the Murder Inc. style, but then she went into more of a realistic thing. But she carried over all those lessons and like just the storytelling through colors.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I color, with just what's on my plate that day. I was just
Mhm.
like, like I don't plan anything. I just do it, and I just color what I feel is the right color. If that
Well,
makes sense.
yeah, feeling
Yeah.
like you're feeling what does the scene feel like? Does
Yeah.
it feel, does it
So
feel happy? Does it feel dark?
as
And
snooty as it sounds, I approach color as an artist.
yeah, no, that's
Yeah.
yeah. Go ahead, Chris.
I was gonna say, like, it's always weird to me when people try to put like a scientific method behind art.
Because we've had that response quite a few
Yeah,
times.
it's like,
So
Yeah.
it's
but
nice
it's
to hear
art,
something
like-
else. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
you
would
don't
say
you don't want to overthink anything you're doing. I think it's a roadblock.
Oh yeah, it's the thing I say all the time. Like, well, comics is art, but it's still a business,
yeah.
Mhm.
and it's business first, and then art second. As hard as that is to accept, because it's like, which is more important, your deadline or making sure that your page is just perfect?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Your
and for
dead-
some people, it's the other way around.
Yeah,
right?
but
That's fine
but
too.
deadline is, I think, more important.
Yeah,
If you're making a comic with collaborators, because you don't want to hold up the rest of your team,
yeah,
because you want to make it perfect.
yeah, and shit rolls downhill. So if the penciler is trying to make it perfect, then the inker has less time, then the letterer has less time, the colorist has less time.
And then
Yeah.
editor is just sweating over here, like, oh, come on, like we're making the job for the editor like just really stressful.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't have to do that, then
Yeah,
business is a priority.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people out there, like, business is a dirty word,
It
but
is-
like,
It's a
Yeah.
dirty word.
Don't like it,
Yeah,
but-
I don't like it, but
but at the
Yeah.
same time, like, I think those. Maybe you can strongly disagree with me. I'm an outsider. I'm not an artistic person, but I feel like sometimes those deadlines create great things because it forces you into a place where you have to like get it done.
you're
And
100% correct.
and what's the phrase, like, perfection is the enemy of good or something like
Yep.
that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like we talk all the time about how limitations are the best thing you can have when you have an assignment. I mean, Taki does that with her colors. Like there's so many different filters that she could use, so many different textures and all these other kind of stuff. But she has this box that will just keep her decision making laser focused. I try to do the same thing. I'm not going to just do some crazy amount of rendering or using I pick a lane. Like in Galaxy of Madness, like I said, there's a lot less rendering, a lot more solid shapes. One of the reasons I think I was thinking of that Saturday morning kind of vibe. Writing is the same way. Like you're choosing a path. Like, who is the story about? What is the point of view? And if your story's about everything, it's about nothing. So yeah, like and having deadlines will help you make a choice. I think most failures come out of people just not making a choice. For better or worse, you have to make a choice about things. You just tangle yourself up.
because art has no perfection.
Yeah.
So if you're chasing that perfection, you'll never get there.
Yeah.
And you'll never be finished. So you just have to decide when it's done.
Yeah, like there's a lot of reasons why like the AI generated art is bad, right? But one of the things is in its perfection, like in trying to make everything this kind of glowy, soft, perfect painted thing or whatever, like it just sucks all life out of it. Even Alex Ross, for as like realistic as his paintings are, it's within a certain amount of like limitations that makes it him.
Right.
Or like a James Kalchaka, who's like a really cartoonist kind of abstracty kind of guy. Like, I don't want that cleaned up in quotes. My work is wonky and has a certain amount of abstraction to it. I don't want to take that out for quote perfection. Even when sometimes it goes to the other side of that and afterwards it's printed out. So, but I'd rather those mistakes than
But
than not.
that's I think the definition of art.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I think those imperfections in some of my favorite artists are what make it so great. Like,
For
even
sure.
though somebody can point at that thing on a Michael Allred book and say like, well, I don't like it that because it goes this way, and I can be like, but that's what I love about it.
Yeah,
And that's kind
exactly.
of the different strokes for different folks thing, and just what we love about art.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you got it.
No.
Yeah, I mean, obviously one of the biggest influences is Mike Mignola, and he throws a lot of rules out the window. You know, the use of perspective and that kind of stuff or whatever. Right? You tell me it doesn't work, it totally works.
I think
It's a $1 million franchise. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's been working a little bit.
Yeah.
Like,
30 years later.
he perfected the imperfection to the point where it's oh man, it's perfect.
Yeah.
It's perfect because it's imperfect. While
we're talking about the the boring business side of things, we had Mark Irwin on the show probably a couple months ago. He's been on a couple times. Really like working with him. For people who don't know, is the VP of Business Development at Mad Cave. Have either of you interact with Mad Cave directly? Can you talk about how it is working with them at all as a publisher right now? Or
and feel free to throw anyone under the bus at
no,
all the dirt.
No, it's all good.
Our editors, James Emmett.
Mm-hmm.
First and foremost, shout out to James for he is one of the very few editors that I'm just shocked by how quickly they reply.
Wow.
On everything.
He's on top of everything.
Yeah, I know just maybe one other editor personally who's that just quick to reply, and and that's been an amazing experience.
Yeah.
Because we don't none of us is just sitting there wondering well, should we I don't know should we wait?
It's weird when you're waiting on an editor.
Maybe we need to make a change, so maybe we should
you start
stop
overthinking
working until we know more. None of that is going on. We just
I
hear from him so often and quickly. It's just been the greatest experience.
Yeah, he's been great. And again, I think it was Mags and her agent who found Mad Cave. We had pitched to a couple other companies, and sometimes a book doesn't get picked up having nothing to do with the quality. It has to do with a lot of timing stuff. Like some of these other books had retro books, or they had they just had a space science fiction thing and stuff.
Yep.
And Mad Cave, first, it's just amazing when a new company comes around, and new as in they've celebrated 10 years, but
10 years this year.
Few companies ever make it that far. It's always exciting when you see a new company coming and they've got all these great intentions, but it's a hard business to land in, and they've been really, really smart in how they run their business. One of the ways to do that is they make books easy to buy. If you want one of their books, you can buy it from them on their website.
Yep.
You don't have to go on a hunt. You don't need directions of how to find it and stuff, right?
Or how to order it. Through this third company.
Third party.
Third party. That's the word. Or anything like that. Or you can, and they'll give you the information on that too.
Right.
But they make it really easy, and their PR people are
great
on top of it too.
Yeah, we had these meetings beforehand, and people actually followed through with the plans and everything. So
that's great.
Not only having a great time with this, I mean, I'm hoping we'll be working with them in the future. Yeah.
Well, and they have a lot of cool initiatives. For instance, for everybody out there, for Galaxy of Madness, you can buy the first 5 issues digitally, and then after the 5 issues are done, you get a physical collected edition of it. That's a cool idea.
That's
which I
so
love.
Cool.
Yeah, because I'm a digital reader, but I'll still buy trades. So someone like me loves that.
And it's they do that. It's $25, and I think that's a good price for. You get all 5 issues as they come out, and then you get the trade at the end as well. That's a steal, in my opinion.
Yep.
So they do cool things like that are just nobody else is doing that.
Right.
I like that they're trying things.
So smart.
Yeah.
And you talk about.
I'm kind of mad that I hadn't thought about that before.
I know. Yeah.
And it's funny because in a world Chris and I have seen a lot of different initiatives over the last few years talking to publishers, and there's quite a few that we have great relationships with. But something about Mad Cave is, number one, they believe in the projects that they're putting out there. They have a lot of the skin in the game thing, but also I think they believe passionately about the stuff they're putting out there. But even just trying to help out, because we see a lot of companies alienate digital or just do a first printing of issue 1 and then a trade. But I think trying to come up with ideas like that tells me that, oh, these people are comic book readers too.
Yeah.
And they value the things that are happening and what they're working on in publishing.
Yeah, that's so that's such a smart point of view because they're thinking about the reader experience.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Like a lot of us, like I don't buy a lot of floppies simply because like we're older now and like, there's base issues, right? Like, so literally I don't want the 5 issues that I'm then buying the trade of, but to pay for it ahead, basically you're just paying for the trade ahead of time and getting this reading experience. So there's such a good exchange of will there that gets you to invest in the story and to invest in the trade. And it's not a threat, like digital is not a threat to physical publishing. If you're old enough to remember when the internet first was coming out and like everybody was pirating all these books and that's the end of this. It didn't hurt it at all. If anything, it helped it. People were able to find more books than they weren't able to before and stuff. And digital should be seen as a friendly part of publishing.
Yeah.
And we just saw, I was just reading a thing like as a side tangent kind of, but like book publishing and book sales have been going up. Like more people are buying books now than ever. So if we can turn that in the comics industry too, that'd be nice. Everybody.
Learn comics. But no, go ahead, Chris.
As part of like stuff like that, you guys got introduced to Mad Cave. I think one of the things that's been really interesting with them and what they're doing is a lot of companies have they have an image. So like we know what a Marvel comic is. We know what a Vault comic, you're expecting something like either hard sci-fi or fantasy. With Mad Cave, what I've seen over these past 2 or 3 years when they really started to blow up is their image is quality. Like I can't think of a single book that isn't quality in the performance. And I was wondering if you guys saw that coming in and if that was part of the reason why you were so happy to sign with them.
Yeah, the first thing I do is like when I heard of Mad Cave or that we were going to go there, I'm like, well, of course I've heard of them. And I just look through their books and that's the first thing you see. I hate to say it, but the first thing I want to judge is the art, and is this a bunch of stuff that looks like, people with a lot of energy who, they're building their way up there, but they aren't quite yet. No, it was all great. And then I looked at, also just to be frank, some of the numbers, hearing how successful they were with books. And I was really interested that some of the books that were really successful were, I'm not totally plugged into everything. Like I hadn't heard of them, of those books. And to me, that was a good thing because that means they're talking to people not only in the direct market, but outside of the direct market. And that was really impressive to me too. And then every step of the way, they were just professional.
I just like what, their approach to publishing and like trying new things that other people aren't doing. And like, I'm thoroughly impressed by any publisher that just kind of throws a spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks, because something's going to stick. Right. And, we shouldn't be scared of trying something new because, things just have to evolve as they, okay, like the old way has been working well for the longest time, but why can't we have new way and keep the old way, and both, but we need to evolve.
Yeah. I mean, as an older trader who the algorithm will show me, who my audience is, like your average age and all that kind of stuff. Frankly, I was really excited that Mad Cave seems to have a pretty wide audience, but a big chunk of them skew younger, and I was really excited about being able to speak to a younger audience. So that's just one of the many reasons why they're awesome.
Yeah, that's great. And while we're on the subject of like subscriptions and things like that, I just wanted to point out for issue 2, because that's up for pre-order right now on Mad Cave's website, but that cover, the old school like science magazines of like tragedy, drama, adventure, I love that.
Well, thanks. That was a huge group effort. It really was. I had a bunch of different sketches, some that were in this vein, but then there were some concerns that they might just look like,
although I do want to give Mags all the credit for the idea.
Yeah. It all comes down to that. Yeah.
I don't know. I see like a resurgence of like that old school, or like I see a lot of companies doing like variants of like the old school horror comics with the big red banner at the top,
Yeah.
and now I'm seeing this like
yeah, I like stuff like
love
the
it.
word balloons. I also professionally I enjoy recreating stuff from inside the book. You know,
Oh,
like I used to love that when I was reading some of the Silver Age stuff, reprints as a kid.
Yep.
And I started doing that with some Blue Book stuff, and then with this, every issue has been that as well. Like I'm looking, besides issue 1, after that, like everything was, I look through the issue, what happens in issue that I can recreate on the cover, even if I'm redrawing almost the exact pose. Like those aren't from the comic, but those are poses and stuff that will happen. And so you'll find a variation of that inside of the book, and that always excites me. And yeah,
and speaking of space pirates in that cover, that does actually look like space pirate ships.
There are actual space pirates. I was so excited.
So maybe we'll get to see those in the future, folks. That's
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. So yeah, I mean, before I wrap up here, this project is going for 5 issues as of now, right? It's a 5-issue arc. 10 issues. Okay, 10 issue arcs. The first 5 is up for pre-order. You can subscribe to the first 5 issues, get volume 1. And
issue 1 comes out June 19th.
Yep, right there, June 19th.
Yeah.
End of June. Like we said, we can go on Mad Cave and pre-order it now. Subscribe to it like I do because it's the best way to do it. Yeah, and I mean, before we go today, is there, like, our listeners, our viewers, do you want to send them anywhere to follow the projects you two are working on, or?
Well, it's hard to follow me.
Okay.
But I am on most of the socials, and it's at Taki Soma. I'm not very active on them, but I do have them, so I think that's the best way to keep up with.
That's another job in itself to be active on.
It is. Yeah. Look, I'm riddled with diseases, so I
Oh my god.
So I don't have a lot of bandwidth for social media, but I try.
Yeah, I don't think many of us do.
I mean, Mad Cave does a good job at advertising stuff, but you can find me on all the socials at Oeming. And I'm constantly promoting stuff, so I'll be obnoxious about it.
Awesome.
Especially the week comes out. You won't be, if you follow me, you won't be able to miss that it came out that week. Because,
perfect. That's what I want to hear. Great.
Yeah, you got to be on social media to hit that algorithm.
Yeah.
So to everyone out there, all our viewers, all our listeners, you know the drill. Go to the show notes down below. I'll have links where you can get pre-ordered issue 1, the physical collected edition plus digital issues that we talked about. And if you're a guy like me who goes to their local comic shop every week, I'll also have the previews order guide website as well for you to go there and get it sent to your local comic shop. Michael Taki, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a blast talking to you. And best of luck with the book moving forward.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for having us.
Yep.